Joining me now, Beth Gorman. She's the CEO of the Women's Foundation of Arkansas. She is a regular guest on this program. We're always happy to have her with us. Thank you for joining us, Beth.
Thank you for having me, Roby.
All right, let's talk about the legislative session that is winding down week 8. It feels like week 80 for some of us who are covering it and watching it on a daily basis. I think I might put you in that category. Let's talk about what's been good this session for women in terms of what they have achieved.
Well, right off the bat, the big thing that is really good is the conversation about maternal health. I mean, we've seen significant legislation and collaboration, bipartisan support to address maternal health in Arkansas, which is really something that we don't want to be known for. And so it's been really nice to see right out of the gate a lot of good legislation to combat what's going on with women and maternal health here in our state.
Yeah. Anything else that you would point to beside? I mean, that is the biggie for sure. And I think we knew coming into the session that that was going to be a big one as well. Any other policies that you have seen at work that you feel like will be beneficial for women, either women
Yeah,
in?
there are still some that are playing out that we really hope continue to get traction, and that's the child care tax credit, House Bill 1435. That's important. Child care tax credits right now. Caregiving tax credits. There's another one out there, 1076. And then we also have, I think, some other efforts to expand maternity leave for teachers. So that wasn't originally a part of the bigger bill that we've seen. There's another one to eliminate the pink tax, which is a personal favorite of the Women's Foundation. And we'd like to see that move forward. And babies at work. So there are still some that are out there. But as you said, I think the appetite for legislation at this point in the session, um, we're hoping that these don't get lost, but we continue to see some traction on those.
Now, interesting you mentioned the babies at work because I just ran into Representative Deanne Vaught from Horatio, who is the author of that Babies at Work, or one of the two of the Babies at Work bill, one for teachers, one for state employees. It was just filed on Wednesday of this week. And I'm quite impressed. She didn't give me any preview that that was coming. I just stumbled into her in the hallway. She told me what she had just done, and we made sure to profile that yesterday. That's got some real potential, I think, as a I mean, as an incentive for people in those fields. And it'll be beneficial to dads too, I want to point out, because
It
it's
is. I think, I've done a lot of conversations in the last 2 weeks about, when you talk about maternal health and you talk about workplace policies, this really isn't just about women, it's about working families. And so this is a significant piece of legislation. And I'll tell you what, I have been impressed with Representative Vaught and some of the things that she's worked on and questions that she's been asking that I'm happy that she's been asking other bills that have come up this session. So again, good for Representative Vaught. I'm glad she got that bill filed.
yeah, she must be getting near the end of term limits there. That's all I got to know. I'm just kidding. All right, let's talk about what has not been good for women in this session. We've certainly seen the anti-affirmative action bills that have moved through. There's some anti-DEI stuff that's moved through. I imagine that might be the lowlights from your perspective, but I'll not try to shade you either way. What do you think has been a
Well, and we publicly
setback?
publicly opposed Senate Bill 3. It was, similar to what was filed the previous session, and we had extreme concerns then. And then there was some language in the Access Act that we were concerned about as well. But I know that the reality is a lot of these legislation are mimicking executive orders. And the bigger concern for the Women's Foundation perspective is really the chilling effect that it is having, not is going to have, is having on programs and opportunities that serve our vulnerable populations, which critical need populations of women and minorities. So, after Senate Bill 3 was signed, within 2 weeks, we saw public universities across the state eliminate scholarship programs for women. I mean, that is, I don't want to use the word chilling effect and say that the sky is falling, but that's happened. And I was proud to see some of the sponsors go on record saying that we don't believe it's going to impact girls in STEM. And I'm going to hold them accountable to that statement, that public statement. But really, that the language and the environment right now is such that we are actually seeing programs being eliminated. My concern for certain state agencies that are they going to be able to continue to do their work, and in what capacity can they do their work to really reach populations? Again, this is I was reading an article this morning from the New York Times about, the state of DEI and corporate, corporate entities, and really it's how serious were we in the first place when we had these DEI policies, because we're now, rolling them back so quickly with legislation. But again, that was our concern. It was really what are going to be the intended and unintended consequences of Senate Bill 3, and to a lesser extent, the Access Act, again, because just the language of how it impacts higher ed and programs in higher ed for women specifically.
Well, with Senate Bill 3 being a law now and you seeing some already immediate consequences from that, is there enough of an argument and enough time for you to go back to some members of the legislature who may have voted for that bill and say, this is the outcome that came from this? Is this what you thought would happen? Is this what you intended to happen?
I don't know there's enough time. I really don't, because we're kind of collecting, kind of, okay, this has been eliminated, this is happening, and really going to use that. Legislators can fix things, absolutely. The same day that Senate Bill 3 passed, one of the sponsors on the floor said, "Here I am this year correcting this from the previous year. It did this, and I didn't mean for it to do this." So I'm hopeful that our state can self-correct if we really see that. The big concern is that I know that our state's a pro-business state. And I know that our state leadership, we want to see our small business economy thrive. Well, small micro businesses in Arkansas are women owned, minority owned, women run, minority run. And if we see negative impact, absolutely, I want that brought to legislators' attention so we can address that.
I promised you I would give you a chance to say, what are you still hopeful might happen in this legislative session? We've kind of touched on a lot of that already, so I don't want to ask a repetitive question, but I do want to make sure that I put the question out there. What do you hope still happens in this legislative session that you think will be a positive for women in Arkansas?
Yeah, I think we've already talked about some of the child tax credit is really is so critical, and I want to always bring it to the economic perspective. This is about working families in Arkansas. When you see 2 weeks ago, Roby, we saw Baptist Health Foundation eliminate their child care facility. That impacted 200 families in Central Arkansas. Central Arkansas, being one of our most populated counties, now has, I mean, legitimately, verifiably a child care crisis. And so child care tax credits, we just cannot overstate how important that's going to be for working families in Arkansas.
All right, she's Beth Gorman. She's the CEO of the Women's Foundation of Arkansas. Always appreciate her perspective. Thank you for sharing your insights with us and look forward to our future conversations.
Thanks, Roby.